Right, just looking at some of the spare parts I carry on the bike, which are for the most part kept in here. There's my tyre repair kit, which we saw in a previous video. It's just some rags. So we spoke about this in the previous video. That's some air bottles for inflating the tyre. So look inside here. I'll put that on the bench and look at this, and look at this. That's just a first aid kit. Look at those. And then in the bottom there you can see a can of WD-40. The WD-40 is useful for all sorts of things. That's the stuff in my little tank locker. So we'll have a look at some of this other stuff in a bit more detail. First off, in this little bag, spare connectors that I have for emergencies. These are just crimp-on connectors, and they're all red tag ones. As you can see, there's a variety: female spades, male spades, some loops, some just straightforward wire joiners. So they're in there for emergencies. I hardly ever touch them, but they're there if I need them in case of emergency. The other thing I've got here is some locking wire wrapped around a bolt. Just a few connectors and some locking wire to have in emergencies. Right, next I've got a box of bulbs. And there's a stop and tail lamp bulb there, an indicator lamp bulb, a headlamp bulb, and a couple of fuses. There's also in there, tucked in the back, there's a couple of instrument lamp bulbs as well. So that's everything I need for when I'm on the road. Complete spare set of bulbs. Now in here I've got, came in this bag, I've got a spare cable kit. So there you can see I've got some length of Bowden cables of different sizes, and some nipples, solderless nipples as well. Now I don't actually carry spare cables on the bike from day to day. I have repaired a clutch cable using this a couple of times. When I'm travelling long distance, I also carry a spare clutch cable and throttle cables as well, but I don't carry those on the bike from day to day. You can buy these from various places, these cable kits. They're very useful, so that's my day-to-day go-to if I get trouble with cables. From experience, I get the most likely cable I'm to have trouble with is the clutch cable. In the 26 odd years that I've had the bike, the clutch cable has broken a couple of times, once in Morocco and once in Germany, and on both occasions, even though I was carrying a spare cable, it was quicker to thread this in and get on my way than it was to actually replace the cable. The cable is not as thick as the inner cable that is in here is not as thick as the original cable, but it certainly gets you by and works well. The other thing I've got in here is a bit of multi-core solder, so in case I ever need that, so that's in there as well. In this little box I've got some other spare parts that I carry with me all the time. I carry in here a spare set of contact breaker points. So and a spare capacitor. If you want to see my explanation about why I run contact breaker points, look at the previous video that I did, because I went into it in detail there. So that's those two. Spare Schrader valve in case I should need that, little screwdriver for adjustments, and then in here, so I've got a pair of bob weight springs for the ignition advance retard, should those go wrong, and I've also got a gearbox pull spring. Now these are always on the bike, but if I was in easy reach of home, I certainly wouldn't be considering replacing any of these at the side of the road. They just happen to live on the bike. The gearbox pull spring is what I mentioned last time. If that breaks, it leaves you stuck in whatever gear you happen to be in when it breaks, and the only way out of that is to use the special tool that I showed in the previous video. I happened to make use of another one that I was carrying when my brother, who was travelling with me, lost his gearbox pull spring broke in his gearbox when we were on top of the Pyrenees on our way to Portugal one time, and fortunately, because I had this, we were able to, well, we took his gearbox out, and then I took him and the gearbox to a BMW dealer in Pamplona, which was at the time I think about 60 miles away. Had to do that because I didn't have the appropriate extractor with me, but it was a good job we did have the spring, because we would have had to wait goodness knows how many days for him to be able to get hold of a spring from BMW. So that was one incident of a breakdown that we had on the road, where it could have been quite major. Well, it was quite major, but we were able to overcome it. So that's that. So that's everything. That's everything that I carry on the bike. That's always on the bike. It's there. All those things, as I say, I wouldn't necessarily fix at the side of the road if I did get a breakdown. Contact breaker points and capacitor, yeah, I'd replace them at the side of the road anytime. Light bulbs or clutch cable or any of the cables I'd repair at the side of the road at any time. But I don't think I'd take the gearbox out at the side of the road, not unless I was, somewhere remote. There we are.